Well, hello. Thank you so much for your time and attention to the important topic of inclusive post-secondary education. I am Julie Lackey, and I am the director of OKIPSE Alliance. I'm also the founder of a nonprofit called Lead, Learn, Live, which partner to begin two of the IPSE programs in Oklahoma. So happy you're here today. First and foremost, I am a parent. We have a son who is 26 now and who has successfully completed an IPSE program. So although I haven't been exactly where you've been, I have been through a lot, and I would certainly love to talk to parents and educators at any time about IPSE and that journey. So please don't hesitate to reach out. My contact info is at the end of this presentation. So I am going to share my screen and would love to just talk about IPSE and give a good overview for everyone. So college for students with intellectual developmental disabilities, absolutely yes. If you have a student or you are a student that has a goal of being as independent as possible, being able to make your own decisions, love to learn, have something you want to focus on after high school as far as learning for a job, then okay, IPSE, inclusive post-secondary ed is absolutely should be an option on your list. And so the Alliance is a partnership between Oklahoma Department of Rehabilitation Services, Oklahoma State Department of Ed, and Sooner Success. And so we have great, great partners. So connections, that is what the Alliance is all about, really. We focus on educating, advocating, assisting, and collaborating with all folks that have a touch point really with students with intellectual developmental disabilities that are interested in college. And that could be tech center, it could be community college, it could be university that just want to continue education after high school. And so we pull together all the folks you see there, students, families, advocacy groups, schools, state agencies, employers, institutions of higher ed, and policymakers. So basically anyone who has that touch point, we want to connect and try to connect the dots to get people to talk to each other and partnership, because we're all about supporting the IPSE programs and the students that they serve. Why do we want to do all this? Well, it's all about outcome. It is about employment, yes, but employment also is directly correlated, as we know, to quality of life. The comprehensive programs at an institution of higher education is what we are all about. There are wonderful options out there that are not college programs, but that's not what we're talking about today. And so we just need to see what is the best option for my student, or what is the best option for me. And so what we're talking about is IPSE programs. And so they are inclusive, they are after high school as an adult learner, and they do have all the components of college education, meaning there's class choice, but there are also expectations that go along with that, right? So we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a few slides. But the reason we do all this is that we know that the majority of jobs will require education beyond high school. And that is coming up very, very quickly. That was a statistic that was given. That's going to happen by 2025. But you know what? We're already seeing that, aren't we? And hearing about that. So statistically speaking, why we do what we do is based on data. I am a parent, and I'm all about things that are very positive and feel very good and are very, emotionally lovely. But you know what? It really does come down to statistics when you're talking about paying for a college education and investing in the time and the cost of a college education. So what we know on a national front is after high school in Oklahoma, only about 30% of individuals with disability that go from high school to the workforce are employed. That's a super low number. What we also know is on a national scale that For students that complete a quality inclusive post-secondary education program, that statistic changes to 64% and above. That is a huge difference. And those are not just minimum wage jobs, those are competitive wage jobs that have a career focus. And I love this statistic, although we are new in Oklahoma and there have only been 3 graduating classes. This is 2024. We have an 86% competitive employment rate for IPSE graduates. That is a huge deal. We are above the national average, and I love that. It speaks well to our amazing programs in Oklahoma. And so what those programs do is they do enhance independence, and they help students have community engagement, and that feeds directly into successful employment because all those things just work together and feed on each other to give a better quality of life. And that really is what it's all about, an improved quality of life. Oklahoma right now, this is what it looks like. We have 4 programs. The first 3 programs are for students with intellectual disability. Northeastern State University Riverhawk Scholar Program on Tahlequah campus is a 4-year inclusive certificate program for students with intellectual developmental disabilities. It does have what's called a CTP designation. At the bottom of the slide, you'll see CTP equals Comprehensive Transition Program for Students with Intellectual Disability. That is a federal designation, which is very important because that allows students to apply for FAFSA and be eligible for the grant programs, just like any other student through FAFSA. And so NSU's Riverhawk Scholar Program is a 4-year program. OSU has Opportunity Orange Scholars. It is on the Stillwater campus. It is a 2-year inclusive certificate program for students with IDD, also CTP designated. And University of Oklahoma has Sooner Works. On the Norman campus, 4-year certificate program for students with IDD, again, CTP designated. Now, those 3 programs are for students with intellectual or developmental disabilities. The University of Science and Arts of Oklahoma, which is in Chickasha, has the Neil Went Center for Neurodiversity. It is a 4-year support program for students with autism seeking a degree. So it is for students who really are degree seeking, can do all the typical college coursework, do not need modified content. So that is a significant difference to be aware of, but it's an amazing program. And it is lovely because it does provide those supports that you'll see on the right side of the slide. It does provide those wraparound supports just like the other 3 programs. So enhancing independence, social engagement, academics, and employment help. So those 4 items we call pillars of a very good program. And our programs that you see listed have those wraparound supports in place for these students. And you will notice I have a little bulleted, bolded type down there that says needed career tech options. And so what we do not have in Oklahoma are career tech options that provide supports like this for students with intellectual disability. And so we hope to see those coming and are working towards that because that's a missing link as far as I'm concerned. So example program. So let's just talk about what those 4 pillars look like. So Northeastern State University Riverhawk Scholar Program, that's what I'll be referencing. However, the other programs provide supports. They may call them different words, use different vernacular, but they do provide these same types of support. So independent living, students live in a dorm. They have roommates or suite mates. They need to learn how to get along. And I always say it's maybe more important to learn how not to get along well. Because anyone that has been in a roommate situation, whether it was in college or not, knows that there are some challenges. And so these students need to be able to learn how to successfully live with a roommate or suite mate and live independently. And so that residential life is very important. Time management, big piece of that. Knowing how to do self-care, doing your laundry, getting up on time, knowing that you've got to do certain things with clothes. You can't just leave them in a pile on the floor and hope they get done. I mean, just all the independent living skills that are needed. Transportation is also a part of that, how to get around, because many of these students don't drive. And so that independent living piece is very important. There are trained assistants that are nearby, could be on the same floor or very close by, that check on students, that give them that direct support. And I will say that, the premise of all of these supports is that they are heavier at the beginning. The idea is that the support fades as the student progresses. And so early on, there is more support throughout. So social skills, another pillar, so important. New data actually shows that what helps a person be successful after high school is really no longer a 4.0 grade point average, right? It's really about how that person can navigate the social world. Students that have intellectual developmental disabilities typically have challenges with social skills. And so that learning appropriateness and building that social capital is so important. So social and fitness mentors, for instance, at NSU, has both social and fitness mentors that the students get to know and are just friends, right? They do things together. They go to sporting events. They eat together, hang out, and then students are required to join a club or organization. Now, again, that differs a little bit with all the programs, but we're using NSU as a overview point right now. And so using social skills in a club and organization is very important, because these programs are not about the students stay together and go to classes all together. They live all together. They go to the same clubs all together. That's not what any of these programs do. These programs allow students to be students, right? So they are as different as you and I are, right? So they have all different strengths, all different interests. They are all over campus taking courses everywhere. They are in clubs and organizations. So those social skills are needed to navigate all of those environments, right? Academics. So if you want to go to college, you do want to continue to learn. And so academics is important. Students take a mixture of catalog courses and a support program course, for instance, that helps them with the things they need more assistance with, like communication, like healthy choices, like maybe nutrition, financial information, and all of these things are at the level of the student. The overriding guide for all of these pillars of support, I will say, is something called a person-centered plan. And a person-centered plan has content in there that deals with the student's goals, but also deals with all the things that support them in each of these pillars. So independent living, it might be they need to be shown several times how to do that laundry, not just told. Academics, they need things bulleted to be broken down in a certain format, shorter assignments. And so academics is very important, as are the supports that go with academics. So along with catalog courses and a program support course that helps them with their person-centered plan, that helps them with their supports, they also have education coaches or tutoring support that helps them stay on track, get their homework done, helps them with time management things. Again, programs at NSU, OSU, and OU are certificate programs. So that means the students are completing the programs with a certificate, not a degree. And so they are doing homework, they are taking tests, and they can fail, right? This is not a gimme program. It's not, okay, you're in and it's just like K-12, you're in, you're going to stay in, because, students can fail. But the idea is that the supports are in place to help them when they stumble, to get right back up and learn from those things. And so certificate programs encompass so much more than just academics. based on that person-centered plan. But students do need to do their best as well. Career development is such a huge piece of this format because based on, again, on that person-centered plan, what that person's goals are, there is a progression of on-campus and off-campus internships that students have. They are paid. If the student is a VR client, as they all should be, they are able to be paid up to 15 hours a week for 10 weeks a semester. And that is courtesy of our partner, DRS, through vocational rehabilitation. I mentioned that right up front because not all states have that. That is something that is really a blessing for Oklahoma. And that partnership with VR allows students to actually use money, real money, money they earned, right? So they're able to learn the value of their paycheck. They're able to learn that you can't go out and, oh, I don't know, buy a set of Dr. Dre's and blow a paycheck and then expect to have a lot of money to go out and go to the store and do other things, right? So they are learning real time how to deal with finance. And that's through that career development piece. They're also learning about what they like to do, and they're learning about what they don't like to do. Maybe students come in and they think, oh, I want to do this job. Well, and so through their person-centered plan, the program staff works with them to get them an internship that is in that line of work. And they might find out that, well, that's really not what I like to do, or I'm not really good at that. And so that's okay. That's what the programs are about. And so they're about helping students to figure that out and pivot and go a different way if their interests change, or if they figure out they've got some strengths they didn't even know they had. There are some wonderful stories from all the programs of students that came in thinking they wanted to do one thing and then found out, well, actually that might be because my mom did that and my grandma did that, or that might be because I was always told I was good at that, but I don't like to do that. And you know what? That's okay, because these students are there as adult learners. And that's a profound difference from K through 12, where the team is working together for students on an IEP to really structure and help that student. Well, now that student is able to say, no, I don't want to do that, or yes, I want to do this differently. And they're really guiding their own person-centered plan, because that's what it is. It's centered on them. These 4 pillars are all very much customized to the student, because every student is different. Disabilities are different. Disabilities affect students differently. And so these are very much customized supports for the students, because it has to be a fit for them. If it's not a fit for them, then it's not at all an inclusive post-secondary ed program, because students are, again, as different as you and I are, right? And so they need a person-centered plan that is focused on them and reaching their goals. And so that 4-pillar system is so important for a really quality program. What we have in place are some wonderful strategic partnerships. The Alliance has worked on facilitating, and we just call it connected community. I mean, you guys have all heard about, oh, it takes a village. Well, I believe differently. I believe it takes a connected community, because you can have a village and you can have a neighborhood. But how many of you really know all the people in that neighborhood, what they do for a living, how it works for them, what are some strengths, what are things they do, what are things they don't do? We might know a couple, right? But typically we don't know all those things. And so the Alliance brings together all these people, and then we work to facilitate connections that support the OKIPSE programs, their staff, and the students. And so that's just that connected community concept is so important. So who are a few of those folks that we have at the table right now? Well, VR, as I said, Department of Rehabilitation Services was first to the table. They do have a contract with each program. They provide up to $3,000 per semester, depending on the family income. And they also pay for that for 15 internship hours per week. So important. And why does it matter? Just what I said. It just does allow students to have that paid internship. They really do learn in real time about financial responsibility and understand a paycheck and how that works. Another partnership we facilitated is called IPSE Next. We work with COWIB, which is the Central Oklahoma Workforce Innovation Board. They worked then on down the line, another connection with VR through pre-employment transition services. And they have work skills trainers that what I like to say provides a bridge for students as they graduate to then continue their journey to find a job. These work skills trainers work with the students, they work with the staff, so they know that person-centered plan. They know what internships that student has had. And so if you are sitting where I was, it's like, okay, well, high school, okay, maybe even IPSE, okay, but what happens after that? Are we just on our own? And so that's why I spoke with workforce about what could be done, and we have some lovely folks that are big picture thinkers that are worked on this pilot called IPSE Next. And so if it goes well, which I know it will, hopefully it'll expand to all over Oklahoma. Right now, these folks travel, and so they work with students in every program and in Oklahoma. So it provides what I call an off-ramp. So when students complete college, it does help them to use those strengths, use all those skills they've learned to get a job they love. And it also, this is a huge deal, assists employers to understand those students, understand what their particular disability requires for accommodations, et cetera, and helps employers just understand a little bit better. So they're doing education all the way around. And so we're very grateful for IPSE Next. Oklahoma City Community Foundation is another amazing partner. Just in this last year, they gave out 5 scholarships to students in IPSE programs. All of these links, by the way, can be found on our website, which you'll have that information at the end of the presentation. But I do mention Oklahoma City Community Foundation. They are a fantastic partner. They are all about IPSE students and the programs. And so they actually do a scholarship program, but they also do grants for the IPSE programs themselves. They have a grant process if they apply. So great partnerships, and all those things matter because it takes all of us, because this effort, guys, was just started in 2018 for NSU, the first program for students with intellectual disability, and only a year before that at USAO for students seeking a degree that happen to have autism. So we are very young, and it needs all of us working together to have a voice to say these programs are important. Let's have more and let's work together. And so supporting students, that's another one of our efforts, and we call it braided funding. That CTP designation that I mentioned is very important because that does allow students to get federal funding through the FAFSA process, Pell Grants, Supplemental Education Opportunity Grants, Federal Work Study. So those things are important. We already talked about VR and what they contribute. We are working and talking and have been talking with DDS for the last 3 years actually. And so we are hoping that there will be a pilot in place for fall of 2024. That is a huge deal. Very excited about that. Scholarships, we already touched on that. And then of course, private pay. If you don't know about stable accounts, please Google stable Oklahoma accounts. And those are amazing accounts that allow individuals with disabilities to put away funding, and it will not affect their benefits. And so self-pay, obviously, you're going to have some funds that you have to come up with as well. But we're trying to pull together as many partners as possible braids of funding, if you will, to help offset those costs because college is expensive whether you have a disability or not. You will see on the right side a nice large green arrow as it says Oklahoma State Legislature. I am not a lobbyist, but I do educate and share information. And if you don't know who your legislator is and these programs are important to you, if you are so inclined, you can just Google Find My Legislator Oklahoma, and you will have this box come up. You type in your address, and it will pull up your state representative and state senator. And also, if you are so inclined, it never hurts to send a quick email to say, IPSE programs are important to me, doing everything you can to support scholarship expansion and help for these programs is important to me. And that's it. Because when they hear from their constituents, it does matter. They do care. They have a lot going on, and so they need to know what's important and what's not. We will actually be able to watch a couple of bills that are going through the legislative session this year. One is for expanding a grant called the OTAG grant, and another is for a program that is a match for Oklahoma's Promise for students attending those CTP designated programs that we just talked about. So again, that's another braid, right? That we would, when you see private and public opportunities for scholarships, that's those public opportunities for, we're hoping, state funded scholarships and grants. So all that to say, the braided funding model is something that is very successful in other states, and that is what we are going after in Oklahoma, to model and help families be able to afford these programs. So let's talk about preparation. All right, student preparation, it starts early. I have a whole presentation just on preparation, but this is just going to be a touch point for you all. Elementary, middle school, and high school. And so I know I've been there. Elementary school was just dealing with a diagnosis and trying to figure out how to survive every day, quite frankly, on some days. But elementary school is the time to get testing done, to get a diagnosis, so you can have those appropriate supports. And those supports go directly into the IEP goals and help you know how to help your student. That testing also is not just for the education world. The testing also helps you as a parent and family member to support your child. I learned so much through the testing process for our son. I thought we had things covered and just learned so many more things that were so helpful to him at home and at school. So it's not just about school, you know, it can help you with challenges that you have at home too. And so testing is so important. The right supports can be figured out through that testing and that relationship with that professional that did the testing. And then those supports go directly into writing IEP goals for that student. And so elementary school, yes, I know. Are you kidding me? IPSE starting that thought process that young? Well, yes, because I just talked to one of my collaborators in another state, and she was talking about the fact that, you know, she said there is 80% of the kids will raise their hand when I ask them in a fourth grade classroom about, do they have any idea what they might want to do when they get out of school? You know, what do I want to be when I grow up, if you will? And she said 80% of fourth graders can tell you that. And you know what? That should be a wake-up call for us. It's not too early, because you know what? College is expensive. You know what else? You need to save. So those stable accounts that I mentioned, that's really important. And so elementary school, yes, so much gets started in elementary. Middle school, so those same supports, well, they morph and they change as that child gets older. Those IEP goals, they should morph and change to go with the supports that have morphed and changed It's kind of like the house that Jack built. Everything should be fluid and changing and advancing with that student. It should not be just a rubber stamp. Okay, yeah, this is working. Let's continue. If it's working, then it needs to get more challenging, because the idea is to help that student be the best they can be, not stay at the status quo. And so those IEP goals need to change, and then start the conversation about college. What is college? Well, you know what college was to our son? It was just a word that had no meaning, because our son has to put his hands on it, has to touch it, feel it, see it, for it to be real to him. So the fact that college was just a word, we started taking him to a college campus where we graduated and walking him around and saying, oh, when we were in school, this is where we lived and this is where our library was. And, so once you're able to start having a student visualize and understand what does college mean, well, that just works through conversation. It's not shoving it down their throat. It's just helping them understand it in a very natural way, to work college into the conversation. High school, again, morph and change those supports, those IEP goals, and then start exploring IPSE. Start going to open houses, start looking at the applications. Again, you can go to our website. We have links to all of the programs directly there. You can go to one place and get those links and get that information in one place. And so they all are different. And so there is not one person that fits all 4 programs. Each person is going to be a different fit for each program. And so you want to understand what those programs are, how they're different. Go to those open houses, take your child or student and help them understand what's out there, what's possible. And so all those things are very academic focused for school, but then life focused is skills. Okay. So 2 sets of skills. I just like to break it down very simply: classroom skills and ADL, activities of daily living skills. And so they all work in tandem to support that person being their best person. Okay. So activities of daily living is self-care. It's being able to handle change. It's being able to handle frustration. All these things happen at home, right? Well, they also happen out in the world. And so that student needs to be able to have jobs, take out the trash, take care of the pets, make their bed, whatever they're able to do. Again, elementary, middle school, high school, morph and change, right? You start small and you add on. It should not ever be static. You want to continually allow that person to be the best they can be, because all those things work together for them to be able to be more successful if they do go to college. And so if they don't go to college, it still helps them to be as successful as they can be, to have those skills. Classroom skills, those are the things that work into the school life, because classroom skills, keeping things organized, turning in papers, knowing where to put things in the right place in the classroom, keeping all of their stuff in their lockers correctly. I mean, just basic things, but you know what? It matters. Being able to navigate those 6 classes, in middle school and high school. Maybe it starts with 1 class, but it grows and grows. And so by the end of high school, they are doing the whole rotation on all the different classes. And so those skill sets, activities of daily living and classroom skills, all work together for student preparation, because it's not just let the kiddo coast through high school and go to college and hope for the best. I mean, the best outcomes have to do with just forward thinking and just working all those things together. More student preparation. And this is just a really short list. It looks long, but it's really not. It's just things to be a thought process. And I will tell you a short story, and I do have this young lady's permission to tell this story. This is Lizzie. She is amazing. I had lunch with her mom in right before she started 8th grade. And I said, how's she doing? And her mom said she's doing great. She's in a self-contained class, but she is the leader. She helps all the kids. She loves helping everyone. And, they look to her and she just loves it. The teacher loves her. She loves the teacher. And I said, what about thinking about college? Have you thought of that? And she said, well, not really at that time. And I said, well, think in these terms, if Lizzie was able to go to one class, not just specials, but one class in the general ed world, if you will, each year, you were adding on 4 classes. 2 of them were specials. She's already doing that. Then by the time she graduates, she would be in all gen ed classes. And that would be a much, much a gentler leap into college than it would going from a mostly self-contained classroom to the big wide world, right? And so, very long story short, that's exactly what mom did. And Lizzie thrived on that. And yes, by the time she was graduating in high school, she was in all regular classes with appropriate supports and did great. And so this is a picture of her opening up her acceptance letter to an NC program. And so does preparation work? Yes, it does. Do you need to help that happen? Yes, you do. Even if it's easier to just let that student be doing great and happy and joyful in a self-contained class. What if they're able to do more? You'll never know unless you try. And so, things to think about for student preparation. Can they use a smartphone? Because guess what? Those students have got to use a smartphone. That is how mentors and tutors and everyone communicates. GroupMe, chats, and texting is the way of the world. And so those students have to be able to use a smartphone. Can they attend and actively participate in classes? Very important. If they just go to class and just take up space and are not wanting to be there, that's an issue because that's not going to be successful for college. Can they take their medications independently? These programs do not provide nursing staff. And so at least the programs we have right now, students have to be responsible for their own medication. And so start that practice. Start it early. You might think, oh, he could never do that or she could never do that. You don't know until you try. That's what we thought. Again, our son is on several medications. You know what? He manages them. And it took a while, but he was ready to go by the time he went to college. Personal hygiene, it matters. And so work on that. Reading and math, just basics, functional basics. Each program's a little bit different and you can talk to them about what they require, but just being mindful of what they're learning and staying up as much as they can with some gen ed concepts. Functioning independently for a sustained period of time, staying overnight in the dorm to make it, regular language, right? These programs don't provide one-on-one 24/7 support. So get that student to stay away from home overnight, not with parents, go to camps, go to, different things. That all helps. No severe behavior or emotional problems. If those things are going on, start early to try to get on top of those. Handling change we talked about. Volunteer and employment situations. VR has some wonderful opportunities in most places of Oklahoma that allow for summer camps that use employment situations. And so that's super important to have that experience. Understanding their dietary restrictions. Does your child have an allergy to wheat or gluten or red dye? Make sure they start to read labels and they start to ask questions while you're with them and can coach them. We talked about staying away from home. Will they ask for help when needed? You might think, well, that's silly. Of course they can. Actually, no. Some families have such an intuitive relationship with their kids, and you know who I'm talking to, that their child, their needs are just immediately understood by their parents, which is a great thing. It means a close relationship. But you know what? It does not help that child when they're not living under your roof. And so the ability to ask for help when needed is so important. And do they understand they have a disability? I can't tell you how many times I have talked to IPSE leadership that has said, you know, we had this amazing student come through our program, open house, but then the parent grabbed us aside and said, now don't tell them they have an intellectual disability, or don't tell them. That is that is a non-starter for the programs. It is actually doing the child a disservice. They really need to understand their disability and start to be their own self-advocate, because the programs, you know, are built for students with intellectual or developmental disabilities, guys. So that conversation is going to come up. So just to meet a couple of the students as we wrap this up, Peyton graduated from OU SoonerWorks. He's an amazing kiddo. I love his quote. One thing I learned from SoonerWorks was actually to stay focused and work hard toward a goal, which I have, and especially SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timing. It can help me break down the goals I made into smaller ones. That's from Peyton. Peyton is now a fitness trainer. He did internships that focused on fitness training. So he was ready for that job when he got out of school, and he's working on his F45 certification. If you know that, you are a rock star fitness person. I had to look it up. It is a hardcore fitness certification. And so that's what he's working towards. I love his quote about employment, that I feel like everyone should be treated as equals, because everyone should know how capable people with intellectual disabilities can be. And, I, I can't say it any better. And Hope is at NSU. She is a senior. She works as a senior care aide for a senior living center. She already has a job offer there. It's just amazing what these programs do. They work with that student's interests, with their strengths, to get them to be where they want to be. And so she plans to work and continue her education. She actually has done so well, she wants to go back and start looking at journalism and taking classes for credit. And so we're seeing more and more of that across the nation. Students complete an IPSE program and have learned so much and have grown so much, they're able to go ahead and get that degree. And so, it's just such an amazing thing when it's a good fit. It really is amazing. I love Hope's quote as well. I think people should hire people with disabilities because we can be smart and we can be intelligent and we can be honest. And what employer doesn't want that? I always close with this picture because this is the reason we do what we do. These were the first 3 IPSE graduates in Oklahoma for students with intellectual disability. And they are and always will be rock stars to me. And so it's just a reminder of all these words are great and these outcomes are great, but it's lives and it's people that this is all about. My contact information. And so please connect with me. And the website has lots of downloadable information and a lot more information. I'm updating it all the time. So please reach out. Happy to talk to you and hear from you, because again, talking to parents is one of my very favorite things to do, talking to educators. I am on the technical assistance team for Think College. Think College is also one of the resources on our website that has a listing of all, I think there's 324 programs right now. This is January 2024, by the way. And they have all the programs all over the nation. So you really can look and see what's going on. So I just thank you so much for your time, and think higher, think college, think education. So thank you so much. You have a great day.